who's watching or is watching after the fact, welcome. My name is Dave Hicking. I work at Laravel, and today, honestly, we're going to talk about all things related to how do you find a job in this industry? We'll say software in general. So as a dev, as a PM, as a designer, as a whatever, in 2026, when you're just starting out, and it probably seems kind of impossible. I've got 4 wonderful people here today. We'll start in the room. Joel, do you want to say hi really quick?
Yeah, morning, everybody. My name is Joel Salisbury. I'm the director of Institutional Innovation for the I3 department at UConn.
Awesome. You want to pass the mic to him?
Hi, I'm Brian Kelleher. I'm the staff engineer here at I3, and I'm responsible for our student dev teams and a lot of our backend management.
Awesome. Matt, you want to say hi?
Yeah, I'm Matt Stauffer. I'm CEO at Titan, which is a Laravel consultancy.
And I'm Ian Landsman, founder of Userscape, Laravel old timer, and
OG
software developer. Yeah.
And Ian's hiring right now, ironically.
That's right.
Not for an entry-level position, I don't think, but he's got fresh opinions after going through this process right now, which I'm very excited for.
Yep.
All right, let's just start at a base level. Ian and Matt, you have hired people early in your careers. You two obviously are hiring people early in their careers, and you're working with people who are early in their careers. In your opinion, and we can, anybody can jump in, or we can go around the room. We'll figure this out. When you're looking at a job application, so whether that's a structured application or some combination of resume and cover letter from someone who's very early in their career, what are you like? What are the things that make you stop and like really pay attention to that application or that cover letter? Anybody want to go first? Ian, you look like you got something.
I mean, I always have something. Dave knows where to tickle me here, right?
That's right.
Cover letters. This is my big thing I'm hung up on. I want you to have a cover letter, a really good cover letter. Like, I feel like people think they don't need to send cover letters anymore. And I feel like it's more important than ever because the resume is just like, we all know what a resume is. And it's a couple lines about your experience in X, Y, or Z. And that's fine. That's like the kind of hard facts. But like the cover letter is where you can express that you're actually interested in this job, that maybe you put in some effort to think about the job before you just threw a resume out there, right? Like get a little taste of who you are and if you're going to be a good fit with the rest of the team. So the cover letter is like where you can really cook and let us know about yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like it's even more important early in your career because there's not going to be the stuff on your resume that just gets you an interview. Like maybe later in your career, it's like, oh, I worked 10 years at Google doing XYZ. That's totally relevant to your job. Yeah, like maybe that stands alone and gets you an interview, right? But like when you're coming out of school or recently out of school, you're just not going to have that kind of resume history. So I feel like the cover letter is super important.
Yeah,
Matt, I saw you nodding.
One of the points that Ian made is really good is that like there are other times in your career where you will have things on your resume that stand out, but when you don't, when everybody's resume looks exactly the same, the number one thing we're going to notice in your resume is mistakes. Like you have the ability, right. There's a very low ceiling for the ability of your resume to deliver value in job application process, but you can go way below that ceiling. It can hurt you. Yeah. So you have to hit that ceiling. It is bare minimum to hit the ceiling of an excellent resume with no typos, no weird stuff going on. It should really communicate it. And if you do have something like you volunteered somewhere, there are opportunities to do little things that kind of break the ceiling a little bit. I worked overseas in this thing on all my college weekends or whatever. Like there's some cool stuff that you can do there. But it is the cover letter or your website or other things that allow you the chance to show that you're a human being in a way that's interesting. Like if I'm talking to somebody who's early in their career, I'm not going to expect them to have experience. I'm not necessarily going to expect them to have knowledge, but what I want to do is like, is this the type of person I want to have around? Is this the type of person I believe will grow in the direction I want to, have them grow? Is this person exceptional in some way so that we can say, oh, you know what, if all other things are equal, this is interesting or this is positive or beneficial or good or whatever in a way. So yeah, give me something to work with.
Yeah, I think back to the cover letter point, it's an opportunity, especially earlier in your career to little higher, yeah, to stand out, right? To show that you've done your research on the company, on the opportunity that you're applying for. When applicant pools are bigger than ever, when budgets are tighter and people are hiring more, they're a little bit more judicious about the way they're going about their hiring, especially with juniors. You know, a way to stand out, a way to like show that you've put some work into how you can fit into that organization.
Are there we talked about like what makes one stand out? Are there red flags? Like when you see something, and maybe you're having grace because they're early in their career and you're trying to be generous, but are there things that immediately you see and you're just like, not going to make it. This is not a good, or maybe they, maybe it's because they've, fired off 500, duplicate applicant or whatever it might be, but are there red flags that really stick out?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first one is, job descriptions are written in a way for a reason, right? If you're not matching that job description and you're not trying your best to match everything you can to what that company is looking for, then, I mean, that's kind of a red flag, right? And you should be confident in those capabilities. And if you aren't, you should, at least have spent some time kind of outlining that in your cover letter that like, hey, I might lack this, but I am willing to learn. I'm going to get caught up in the way I need to. And, I've done these other things to prove that I have that capability. Right. So I think like it's written in a way that it's prescriptive for your resume sort of prescriptive for your resume. And if you aren't doing the minimum of kind of matching exactly what you can to what that company needs, then you're leaving a lot up to interpretation. And I think that's a game you don't want to play with such a large junior applicant pool.
Yeah. I think sort of philosophically a thing that's worth getting across. I assume this is geared, for kids looking for their first jobs, right? So like I would think that giving them that idea of like what it's like on the employer perspective right now, with like so many people applying to every job, AI making that even easier to do, right? It's like, you are, as the employer, you are looking for reasons to eliminate people. Like this is the first pass is how do I eliminate 90% of these people? Because I've got 1,500 applicants for this one job. So I need to eliminate them as fast as I can. And I can't spend a lot of time doing it because I'm just not going to spend 20 minutes on each of 1,500 applications, right? It's just not realistic. So like, so thinking that through, right, and really internalizing that is like, well, how do I stand out? How do I make sure I get through that first pass? And like, not sending any cover letter. Like for me, I just instantly, you're out of the pool. You're done.
They're done. Yeah.
They're just done, like straight away. Like the resume being just bad, you're probably just done. I'm not even going to read it. Like if it's just like formatted poorly and things like there's no reason in 2026 you have a poorly formatted resume. So like those things, it's not fair, right? You might be a better candidate than the other people in a certain sense, in a like hard knowledge sense, but you're not better than them in like your attention to detail and your ability to be persuasive and those things, which are important to me too, not just that you know how to code, for example. And so, so I think paying attention to all that stuff, being really detail oriented. I think you brought up a great point about customizing the resume. Like that's something I see so infrequently. Like the resume, the cover letter should be custom to the job and the resume should be custom to the job. And now there's not really a good reason to not do that. Like the AI can help you, like give me a resume, build out everything, and then let the AI create resume versions for different jobs, right? Like that's the hustle is part of getting the job. And I know it's very frustrating for people because you apply and then you don't get called back and you don't know why and all that stuff. But then you see that quality go down, right? And then they just start throwing resumes over the wall. And that's even worse, right? That's just useless. So.
Yeah, that's where that can become a red flag in its own right? Like there's an instinct, maybe early career, to keyword stuff and to over-index in the buzzwords and to over-index in the latest and greatest when you sculpt your resume, and to maybe customization to the job is good. But when you review, to your point, Ian, when you review hundreds of them, quickly you learn to tell who's doing that. And you could tell like, oh, they're, this is surface level. This is something a little bit more like they're trying to trick the system, or they're trying to, over-index in what they think the hiring key points are. So there's a balance there that can quickly become a red flag in the other direction.
Yeah. And well, I think that it's also just great. Just let me pop one thing in there is that like, to me, this ends up being a huge tell that you haven't looked at our company at all, because, and I'm sure it's similar for Matt, right? Like if you're applying to IBM, maybe you need to do some of that stuff because you're going to hit HR people first before you even get to the hiring manager. And there is a game there of like, I got to get through phase one.
Yeah, or the AI screening.
Right. Yeah, AI screening, all these things. But if you're applying to a small company, like where the founder is reading the resume, then I don't want to see like your 20 rows of like every tech language just listed. You know, you don't give me HTML on 1 to 5 scale. You're a 5. Like, I don't need that. Like, that's just wasting my time, wasting resume space. Right. So like, yeah. So that's the reverse tell is I know you didn't look at my company because you just sent me this big company resume and cover letter, which isn't even appropriate for the size business you're applying to here. So.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who are looking for work and have been over the last few years, and I know that it's a difficult market right now. So sometimes it can be tempting to say, well, if I'm going to have to send out 1,500 applications in order to eventually get a job, I can't do that much work on each of them. But if you're sending out 1,500 applications, first of all, you're probably not going to get a job out of that. Like none of the people I know who've blanket just submitted thousands of applications, especially if you're like using the LinkedIn thing where you can just hit auto submit, you're not getting that job. Like they don't work. So you get the jobs. Yeah, you get the jobs through real applications, through real relationships, through real connections, through doing hard work on each individual job. And you will see more success doing really intentional hard work on 50 jobs. You'll see endlessly more success in that than doing basically no work on 2,000 jobs. And it's not necessarily where your brain thinks at the beginning. But to Ian's point, even if you are applying to a larger company, you still should specifically contextualize your application to what's going to work for that company, even if it is keyword stuffing for them and it's different for us. Okay, but like if you might spend the next 5 years of your life transformative things at IBM, you should probably spend more than 15 seconds thinking about what applying to get into the door at IBM looks like. If you want me to spend potentially millions of dollars on you over the years of you working at Titan, flying you around the world, investing in your transformation of your growth and stuff like that, you should probably get to know who I am and listen to the podcast. I talk about this all the time on the internet, and go read our blog and figure out who we are. Like the information is out there, and you're saying I should be considered for this job having not considered anything. And like, to Ian's point, we do have to skim through those 1,500 applications, and we're not giving them each of them 20 minutes. But by the time I actually get to somebody who's getting hired, I have spent hours and hours and hours with that person, with their resume, with their website, with the code that they've written. And so if that person is not willing to spend some time up front to make sure that they're a good fit and they can communicate those things to me, it's just sort of like, what are you doing? You know, like take some time, figure out your dream job. And not every job's your dream job. Not every job can get the same amount of time. But you're going to go so much further if you really spend that time learning what is going to work with these people and communicating in their way.
Yeah, I was actually curious. I'd love to hear from the i3 guys specifically about how they see, because you're working with, students, people early in their careers all the time, how they see students using AI with their job search, right? Because we talk, we've sort of hinted at it a little bit. This is something that everybody's thinking about, but like one of the ways is you can use it to help you tailor resumes more specifically. But I'm curious, are you seeing people using AI in that way, or not really so much?
I think there's still a little bit of a like stigma on like using it for something that's going to set you up for the rest of your life, right? And or a little bit of a hesitancy to go all in on that. And I also think we're still a little bit, at least with the students we see, we're in the early stages of people really understanding what the capabilities of AI are, right? Like you kind of get this, what ChatGPT is this surface level, LLM that everyone's familiar with, but like, are people really capable and understanding of how to use like agents and how to use like larger workflows to really craft these things in a specific way? Like, I'm not sure yet, but I do think like it's been very powerful in the like portfolio game, right? Because a lot of people have a lot of great ideas that maybe they haven't had time with their schoolwork to fully flesh out and to like really make themselves stand out. And I have seen a lot of like individual projects, like a lot more portfolio pieces coming together, a lot more like passion projects come together, which really kind of represent that person at a deeper level that is helping their search. But in terms of using it for like overall job search, I haven't seen as much of it yet, but I think that would be a huge standout for someone if they were able to navigate that in that way.
the reason why I brought that up is that I can imagine that there are good uses and there are bad uses. I used to, for people who are watching who don't know, I used to work for Ian. 2 years ago, we did, Ian was hiring somebody. I was helping with the search. Ian, I think we got, I don't know, 1,400 applicants in like a week or so. And so many of them, it was so obvious that people were just giving us cover letters written with ChatGPT. And it was an immediate turnoff, right? So there are good ways to use AI, I'm imagining, right? Help you do research, help you customize, help you do whatever. But I'm also assuming that there are just red flags, right? Like if you're asking somebody for a code sample and they actually can't explain the code sample because they just generated it with Claude or something, like that's probably a red flag, right? Are there other sort of, how are you seeing that? I mean, Ian, you're doing a job, you're looking at applicants right now, and Matt, I'm curious what you've seen lately. Like, do you sort of have, hey, this is an okay use of AI, or I'm glad they did this, versus, oh, this is so bad and I never want to see this again?
I mean, for me, it's like we're using AI a lot and more every day. And so I don't care that you use AI to write your cover letter or your resume. I care that you use it well, right? So the thing is, when you use it poorly, then you're sending me just a bunch of garbage, and that is the insta ignore, right? But like if you use it well, then it's going to enhance my understanding of who you are, and it's going to let you customize these things to me. And that's great. I won't even be able to tell it's AI, right? Because it's just well crafted. So that's the difference there, I think. And if you don't feel like you can do that yet, then you just have to put in the legwork and not use the AI and do it by hand, which I think is fine. I would suggest also probably improving your AI skills, because there's not going to be many jobs in this world of software development and all adjacent territories that are not going to expect you to use AI very soon here. So, I think this is a good part of the job. Like when I was coming up, part of the job was like, go to the library and look up every coding book, and like, oh, I'm learning JavaScript. I have to like look through 15 different books and figure out all the angles on this, right? And so that's not part of the job anymore. But part of the job is, I got this new tool that I'm expected to know how to use, at least on some basic level, even out of school, I would say. So, yeah.
Yeah. When used correctly, it's just a layer of abstraction on top of good fundamentals. The good fundamentals we already talked about, like doing your research on the company, understanding the role you're applying for. And in that case, it's if you're not leveraging the tools that can accelerate that can be like a force multiplier on that research and on that like customization, then you're probably behind, right? Given the the way the job market is right now. And so same way we tell our students to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, to me, the work is that you need to do manually is creating that body of knowledge about like yourself, all the different angles on you, the job, researching the job. And then that's where maybe the AI can then help you take this body of knowledge all about me, and let's work together on that, me and the AI, to like craft a good cover letter, craft a good resume, double check everything. Like it's still going to be work. Like if you just say, create me a cover letter for this job, the AI will happily do that and it will be garbage, right? So like there's still work. Yeah. It's just the type of work's a little different, and how you're going to go about it's a little bit different. So yeah, I think the organization of that part is really key, and that's the work of utilizing it and leveraging it. There's still work there.
There's two things that I've kind of been coming to a realization of as I talk to people. I have a podcast about AI, and I realized I've started saying the same things over and over, and I'm like, oh, that's something that I think. This is helping me. One of them is that if you don't know how to do the thing yourself before you use AI to do it, then you're not going to be able to evaluate whether AI did it well in the end. My high school calculus professor or teacher wouldn't allow us to use formulas until we had proven that we understood the underlying concept. And once we had done that, not just proving like in theory, but like he would actually make us take tests. And once we were able to do the thing, then he would teach us the formula, and then we would use the formula going forward. And there's a lot of similar things in programming. So if I don't understand the code that AI is writing, I can't evaluate to figure out if it's good or not. Similar with writing. If I don't know what good writing looks like in an email, then when AI writes the thing for me and I end up with bad writing that smells exactly like AI, then that tells me that you don't understand good writing. So like Ian said, like if you use AI in your writing and I can't tell you used it, then I don't care, because all it was a tool that you were able to evaluate. So that's the first thing. Like if you know how to do the thing, then using AI to help you you're still the arbiter of taste and quality in the end. So who cares what you use to get there, right? The second thing is I've found that I'm much more comfortable with use of AI when I think of it as using it in ways we would have historically used Google, but AI is just a better version of that. If you would have Googled, hey, what are the things that you probably should put in a good cover letter? And Google would have given you results, and you would have parsed through them, and you would eventually come to a conclusion that, well, here are the 5 things that most Google search results agree should be in a cover letter. And then you use that to write it. There's no downside of instead saying, hey, AI, what are the 5 things I should put in a cover letter? And then putting those things in your cover letter. And it can do it more intelligently because it can contextualize it to you in a way that Google search results can't. That's fine. It's just tool usage, right? You're still the creator. You're the person with the big idea. You're the person creating content in the end. You're just using a tool that gives you better search results than Google did. That's fine, right? Like that's nobody's thinking that you're not doing your job doing that. But you're saying, write the whole thing for me. It's not just tool usage. It's now replacement of you as a human being. That's when you're going to run into problems.
Yeah, and I think that also, unlike in the past, and this is like to me pretty key for like somebody who's younger and just figuring the stuff out, right? You don't know what a good cover letter is. You don't know even like a code sample. Did you do a good job or whatever? Like the AI can help you with all those things by digging back into it. So it's like you can take the time, set up the stuff about you, write it with the AI, do your first pass on the cover letter. And then I feel like a lot of people stop there, but you could just keep going and be like, okay, AI, let's break down this cover letter we just wrote. Let's go through it again. Explain to me what parts are good, what parts are bad, and then just iterate and iterate. And you're making a better cover letter, but you are also learning what makes a good cover letter by going back and forth in that process. And it's like the same thing with code nowadays, right? Like in the past, you might have Googled for a code snippet or gone on phpclasses.org and gotten code, right?
Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow.
Yeah, Stack Overflow. And you're just like, hey, we got the code. And you don't understand what this code does, right? So in that regard, nothing's changed. Like people have always done this. Like it's just now the code literally shows up at your door, right? Which is fine. But now you can still go that extra step and be like, all right, AI, like explain this to me and let's go through this until I understand it. And now you're using it to learn instead of just, in the past, again, you would have to go find out what this function is and you have to go look it up in some book somewhere or Google it or whatever. And now you don't have to do that. And it's even better because it can explain it all to you. But a lot of people don't go that next step, right? Like they just get the answer and they move on. But you can reinforce yourself by digging down in there into the code or the cover letter or the resume or whatever it is.
I'm curious for even, if we're talking about somebody who's early in their career, they're just starting out, are we now at a place where the assumption is that, I know they're still early in their career, but they should know how to use AI tools, whether that's as a developer or designer, like, is that now kind of like table stakes? Are we at that point in 2026?
Yes and no. Yes, because you should have tried something, right? You should be familiar with what it looks like to interact with a chat-based, chat GPT or whatever else. You should have your favorite that you've tried, and you should have tried it in your specific career. So it's in development. You should have tried some AI-assisted coding. If you're not doing it, you are either just the most clueless person in the world, which seems unlikely, or you're being an intentionally kind of like head in the sand kind of thing. And there are some places where you can be head in the sand, Luddite, and just say, I refuse to engage with it because I'm concerned about the environmental, social, everything like that, parts of AI, and that's totally legitimate. But you've got to find the people who are willing to hire those folks, and there's not lots of them, just to be really transparent. There's very few of them. Yeah. Or you're being obstinate and you're being stubborn and pig-headed, in which case you're not getting the job. I'm sorry, So like, you don't have to be a pro because nobody even freaking knows what the absolute limit is. What do we all need to know? What tools we're going to use? It changes every week. You can't expect a student just graduating to know all the answers, right? That's not, you don't need to be a pro. You don't need to have used freaking Ralph Wiggum loops or something like that, but you have to have looked at it. You have to have tried it. You have to have kind of poked at it. And if you've done that, just like all the rest of our things, we can kind of shepherd you. So it's not that you're great at it. It's that your attitude and openness is correct.
Yeah, and I think listen, there's a reason why this is all you hear about, right? And it's not, it's real. That's just the way it is. Like this is what software development is going forward. And so if I was coming out of school, I think you should be trying to be the best AI-based developer you can be. I think that is going to be the stuff that makes you stand out. I don't think it's impossible without that, But I think the person that on their resume is like, yeah, I built this huge thing with AI, and this is what I learned, and this is how I set up this other thing, and blah, blah, and like I can get in. My finger is on the pulse of what's going on. I think that's probably going to make you stand out for somebody who's just like, I got A's in computer science and I got all the background stuff, and just like everybody else in this graduating class, right? Like, you know, I think the AI stuff's going to make you stand out. And the thing about AI you have to understand is like it's generating so much work that the only solution is the AI. So like we've been going through like doing like security auditing with the AI tools, because like I think the next couple of years is going to be crazy with like AI and security, and AI is going to make it very easy to find bugs and everything and exploit them and all that stuff. So we're trying to get ahead of that. But like you run an AI tool through anything, any open source app out there, and there's just like hundreds of issues. And so now you have these hundreds of issues or thousands of issues that really need to be like reviewed. Sometimes the fix is easy, but like has to happen, has to be verified. Like, so that implies more AI to check these thousands of issues. And still so there's still the human element of like final verification and stuff, but that's just where the world's going. There's just more work. Like you think there's going to be less work and it's going to do stuff, but there's actually more work. But the work is going to require you to be AI assisted in doing the work a lot of the time. So yeah, I think you need the AI.
It's sort of the great equalizer in terms of like pure code output, right? And so the opportunity to use it and to stand out by using it to demonstrate your ability to understand a problem, your ability to like attack something, break it down into smaller problems, and actually produce a solution. It sort of has equalized any blockers that might exist on the like the pure technical front. So in that way, when the gap between those who can solve problems with a pure technical bent and those who can break it down, understand it, articulate it, and turn it into a solution, you know, when you start to close that gap, if you're not using it, then you may not be demonstrating your ability to do that quite as effectively.
This will also differ depending on the company. One of the things I've also discovered through my podcast is that I have a different approach to AI than a lot of developers do and people who manage developers, because I run a consultancy and it is our job to know the technology that we're introducing and fixing better than anybody else in the world, so that when they are having trouble or they need the experts, we come in and we're the experts who know it no matter what. So we can't rely on AI in the way a lot of other people can, because we're the ones who come in to fix up the AI problems. We fix overseas coding issues, we fix up AI problems. So I would actually much rather hire somebody who has the core thinking skills and understanding that I believe is going to help them get to the point where they can be completely functional without AI, and teach them AI long before I'd like to hire somebody who's like, look at all the things I built with AI, and they don't understand or have not shown the ability to become someone who understands those core things. And that is something that is distinct to the way I run things. And I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I know a lot of people who are like, look, what I care is about productivity. What I care is about output. You know, AI is the great equalizer. And I'm like, no, that is not true for me. And I'm not saying that's not true for other people, but it's good to know that like, this is yet another thing you need to understand. What kind of company am I applying to? Am I a programmer among programmers? Am I going to be a junior level person in a team of 50? Am I going to be the single person working at this company who's responsible for all technical output for the entire company? And then your response and the necessity of AI and your relationship between AI versus being a good technologist versus being a good coder will be different depending on those. Like a lot of people who are at smaller shops, AI is probably going to be more important because they're like, oh, now you can be our WordPress developer and our Laravel developer, and you're going to make our mobile app and you're going to make whatever. You probably need to be relying heavily on AI to be able to do all those jobs. And you do all those jobs way better than you could without AI. At Titan, I'm like, every day you show up and you write full stack Laravel for the same client 40 hours a week. My developers are fully capable of AI. They've been using AI for years, and the vast majority of them are like, yeah, we don't actually use it that much because we're so hyper-focused on one thing that AI slows us down. It's not that we never use it, but it's just like when it's an expertise thing, AI is probably not going to come close to what humans can do. So it's just very different depending on the job and depending on the employer.
Look at that. We got a balancing here. I like it. Yeah, but the other thing with the AI, though, right, is like it's not just about building stuff. It's about like 3 years ago, I was like super worried in terms of for junior developers. how are you going to learn everything required to be a web developer? Because like the stack is so insane now to actually understand what happens when your browser makes a request to a web server and all the layers it goes through and all the stuff that happens and how it gets data and how it comes back up and spits out. Like, I mean, there's like 50 systems in there, you know, and like where are you going to get that knowledge of all those systems at a medium level at least? And now I feel like, you know, this is again where like, can you get an unfair advantage even for a company like you're trying to apply to a Titan type company, right? Where it's going to be more hand coded. You still have to know how to do the hand coding, right? So how are you going to learn those skills? And like the AI is something that I feel like can help you acquire skills faster. Again, if you use it as a tool for learning and not just to do the work, but to understand things better and more deeply. And it could be customized in any situation, right? Like explain to me, AI, how this output came from this HTTP request and the steps it went through. And it can break that all down for you, right? And like you can dig into it and all those things. So I think there's even that angle there of just self-improvement, and the speed at which you can learn things is pretty dramatically increased, potentially.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear, like, because obviously you're training people, like college students. They come in, they have some sort of background in computer science or programming in general, but probably a lot of theory, and you're getting them from that to actually, you're going to write Laravel code. You're going to write code that's going to be in production pretty soon here. So in this, you know, as Ian was saying, how are you approaching that, or how has AI changed how you approach that at all?
Yeah, I think our job is starting to become more of the permission and the the permission to break that barrier and to say, okay, now take that theory that you have been learning, and I'm going to give you some real problems you're going to experience in the real world, and like, let's see how you approach it. And there's a difference between those who approach it and say, okay, well, I'm still looking for more guidance. Like these tools now are capable, just as Ian was saying, of explaining it down to every level of the stack for them. And you no longer need, a senior to sit there with you and explain every part of it and go through exactly every service and every layer. And it's a lot more barrier breaking than I anticipated. I thought I would be mentoring more students at this point on like strategies in Laravel, but that's not even true anymore. Like, it's much more like, it's okay to use this, and I encourage you to use this to learn, because it's going to explain it and contextualize it better than I'm going to be able to on every project, especially when we have as many projects as we do here, right? It's a lot of that, and I see the students who are really thriving with it, who are not afraid to kind of take it by the reins and say, okay, I'm gonna go try and produce something, and then come back and look for that feedback, and then we'll iterate on that, right? Rather than getting stuck, stopping and saying, I need more guidance to go forward, right? So it's a lot of like training those habits that you're going to need in the workplace when someone is trying to bring you into their small team and depend on you for output and just being able to absolutely solve that problem without help around all the time. So
that it seems like a theme of this conversation, which is there's a difference between using AI just to, I think a phrase that my coworker was using, as a slop cannon, where you're just firing off, whether it's code or resumes or whatever. There's a real big difference between that and instead using it as a tool, as an assistant, as a teacher, as guidance, as a way to dig deeper, to understand what's going on. So not like supplementing, as opposed to just, here we go, hit the button, send everything out, let's go. I'm not even looking at it. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we ask them to understand it at a deep level too. You have to answer for it when clients ask, what's going on with this, or or when a problem arises, they might be more familiar with that project now than I am, because they've been pushing on it for a year now. And if you can't answer for all those levels of what's happening on the problems you're solving, then you're just introducing a ton of risk. Absolutely. Yeah. So I find it's way more habit building on using this AI and really giving that permission set to use it than it is, teaching Laravel skills, because, Claude knows Laravel perhaps better than I do at this point.
No, it doesn't. No, oh, guys, I know that I'm the.
It's okay, Matt.
The AI will never have the same level of ability to exercise good judgment that we will. And so
Absolutely.
I think that yes,
know.
it might know syntax. It might know. So I'm 100% with you, but I think that because we know what it means when we say that, we're like, yeah, it knows it Laravel better than me. I don't want to risk the convincing people that you just don't need to know. You need to know the foundations. You might not need to know the specific context of this, new feature in JavaScript versus whatever, but you need to understand the foundations of what does secure code look like? What are the vulnerabilities you need to watch out for? What are, and so those things you're gonna need to know, even if the specific syntaxes are not what you're spending your time and energy on.
Yeah, for all that it accelerates.
I slightly disagree, but yeah. I would just say that there is like security. Like, I don't think anybody's going to know the security better than the AI. Like, already, and very soon, anybody at all. But I think the thing is, like, the AI is going to give you a solution to this security issue it found. And the thing it's not good at, and I think it's going to continue not be good at, which is kind of what you're talking about, Matt, is the idea of like, how does this change fit into the application as a whole? Because the AI is going to just be very focused on, I have fixed the issue. And indeed, the issue is fixed, except now you can't use this feature in the way you used to use it, because by making this change in this way, the feature doesn't work anymore, or it doesn't work correctly, or it doesn't work the way people used it or expect it to be used. And so then that's like the higher level there of like the developer has to realize like the context of the application, how customers use it, and be able to say, does this fix, not just technically fix the security issue, but does it still allow the software to operate in the way the customer expects it to, right? And so that to me is like where the software developer is going, is like really understanding the product in the way the AI doesn't.
We could get
we should go down
more sidetracked on this day, I think. But
that's why I'm shutting up. I'm like, we should probably move on to the next thing. So.
I'll be on your podcast soon, Matt.
Exactly. Ian's gonna be on my podcast like next week, so you can listen to all of us going back and forth on it.
There you go. Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
One thing that I know, and I'm sure these guys hear it all the time, that is always a struggle when you're trying to get that first job, is trying to understand, how do you, if you don't have, it feels like a chicken and egg problem. How do you get a job if you don't have experience? How do you, like, what actually counts? Like, how do I stand out if you're early in your career, And so I'm actually curious, like, when you're looking at, if you're hiring somebody early on, when you're looking at that resume, that cover letter, is it really just like you're looking for sort of like hints? You're looking at like, okay, they did this passion project. Is it like, oh, actually like portfolio stuff really matters? Or, oh, they did something open source, that's really interesting? Or is it more like, actually what I really want is like, have they done it in like at a job somewhere, someplace like i3? Like, I'm curious, like, what do you Ian or Matt, you can start first, and obviously want to hear from y'all. Like, what do you value, like, as when that real world experience is going to be pretty light on those first couple resumes, right?
I think I went first last time. Ian, go ahead.
You want me to go ahead? Yeah. So I mean, I think that I would try to think in terms of where can you gain unfair advantages, and so first and foremost, as we already touched on, I think it needs to be 100% mistake free, because I'm looking for any mistakes to just eliminate you. Right. So you must be mistake free. I can't even emphasize enough. Like, you want everything to be perfect in your cover letter and your resume, because just the mistakes are just easy way for me to eliminate you when there's so many applicants. But beyond that, it's like, okay, when you're applying to IBM, it's probably going to be impossible for you to really know who even the hiring manager is. Like, you're not even going to know that information. So it's going to be much harder to get unfair advantages at that point. Like, earlier, you could have an internship, you could be networking, and those are all better ways to get a first job, right? Like, that, if you know somebody's always the best way to get a job. So, okay, we're going past that point. You don't know anybody who can get you a job right now, so you're just straight applying. I personally would probably focus on smaller companies, because, like Matt talked about, like, you have an opportunity to know who the hiring manager is, whether it's the founder or someone who's just more in the public, and that gives you a chance. I mean, the number of resumes I get where nobody has looked up that I have had like a podcast of one sort or another for 15 years. And like, you could learn everything there is to know about me and my philosophy on these things. And I mean, right now you could just ask AI, you'd be like, hey, Ian Landsman, founder of Userscape, what's his deal? It's going to give you like a whole bunch of stuff because I've just been in the public for so long. And you could be using that stuff to write a better cover letter that's tailored to me, right? And so, but 1,500 applicants will get like 5 that have done that, and it's like those are just instantly to the top or near the top. Not that we've always hired from those people, but they instantly get to like, the middle to final round just on like cutting through the noise of somebody who put in work, who is able to customize it, understanding what we're looking for on a deeper level than even just the job ad itself. And so, yeah, I think looking for those edges where you can get them is useful.
One of the things that's hard to get experience in is working with clients and working with the team. It's easier to get experience building your own thing. So if you haven't done that, again, that's kind of table stakes. And I don't mean I was in a computer science class and they made us all make the same generic React page, like that's not helpful to me. I don't care about that. So portfolio can't just be the things you made in your classes. You need to at least have made a few things in your own. I tell everybody the simplest baseline thing you should do is, in the technology of choice, go rebuild Instagram. You need to be able to show me the HTML, CSS. You need to be able to show how pulling things from a database, uploading caches, queues, one-to-many relationships where each post has many comments. You have to have user logins. Like if you can't do that in your tech stack of choice, that's a perfect opportunity for you to do in your nights, your weekends, your summer. Go do something. It doesn't have to be Instagram. Do something you actually are passionate about on your own. That's the first thing, baseline. If you've not done that, what are you even doing with your time, applying for jobs? But after that, if you're looking for experience on top of I've done something not just because my teacher made me, is I've done something with either real clients or a real team or both. The easiest way to get real clients is to go do free work for people. My entire first year of my career was doing volunteer work for nonprofits, churches, synagogues, all that kind of stuff in my local community. And I just said, hey, I can make websites. Can I make a website for you? And trying to set them up in a way where when I move out of town or whatever, they're not just kind of stuck. They're actually able to keep maintaining on their own. And the best way to work with teams is to contribute to open source work. Find projects that are in the technology stack that you're interested in and try and find someone that are asking for help, and then go do that, because I can see your code publicly. If you do that, I can see how you give pull requests. I can see how you respond to people's feedback. I can see how you describe your issues. I can see that you've had the experience of pulling down a repo locally, cloning it, figuring out how to reproduce the problem, writing new code that fixes the problem, writing tests that prove that the problem is fixed, pushing those tests up, the tests and the code up. There's a whole suite of experience you're going to get, and public ability for me to see that experience happening if you're contributing to open source. So those 3 things, like build your own apps on your own, not just for school, find clients, whether it's friends, family who are willing to pay you, or just do stuff for free, and then find opportunities to work with teams. Open source is the easiest way to get to it.
Yeah, I love that. All that stuff is great. I think especially the open source end is quite interesting because that's like, you don't even need permission, right? You don't even need to find people. It's like, go and find a good project where it's really actively maintained, so your contributions will be actually like taken in if you do a good job, like a Laravel, for instance, right? And like right now, there are just so many bugs, security issues, problems with all these big open source projects. They're overwhelmed with issues being submitted. Like, go in there and grab a few and create pull requests for them. And now on your resume, hey, I have four issues, that have been accepted into Laravel, and you could point to the actual, issues and resolutions. And yeah, like Matt said, you'll be able to see the commentary, be able to see what you submitted and all that stuff. And that's just like a real world thing that you're going to be able to point to. That's just takes you so far out of just all I have is schoolwork, right? And it's like, no, this now brought you up to real world, interact with the other people, advocating for your solution, all those things is just gonna really stand out because nobody else is doing it. That's the thing. Like, so much has come down to hustle, but like there is a huge hustle aspect to out hustling the other people. That's just the reality. Like, people are there like, oh man, I worked really hard and I got these good grades, and that was my hustle. but like it's just not enough. Like you got to go far. You got to keep going past that and out hustle the other people. Like it's a big part of it.
Yeah, effort and eagerness and willing to understand. You know, we're talking about early career applicants, but you know, everybody we meet is pre-career. They're not early career. They're here with only a couple of terms of schoolwork under their belt, at most. And some of them are even earlier than that. And maybe they're right out of high school when they come and they join our shop. And the students that stand out when we hire student employees are the students who demonstrate an eagerness, and they have done some side work, or they've tried to build something to scratch their own itch, or something that they're interested in solving for. And then they can talk intelligently about the thing they built and why it was built, not just, oh, I used React. You know, I built something that was from a tutorial, and certainly not the classwork. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily bridge a gap, but they can speak about why they built what they built and what went into the choices they made in the tech stack. That's an eagerness and sort of like a enthusiasm that shines through when they come here. And we have an extremely diverse workload. And, you know, they're not just focused on one product for the whole time that they're here. They're bouncing from project to project, and they're bouncing from client to client. And those who can understand the whys of what they're building are the ones who stand out to us. And those that we recommend for, you know, the next stage of employment, are those that we write eager letters for when they do start looking for their careers, because they've proven to us that they can adapt and they can understand a problem before they start tackling it.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add to that is, you know, I've been thinking about this whole open source thing. You know, if you're trying to apply to, if there's like a company that is your dream job, maybe there's a job where you're really excited by it. If that company has anything open source related to it, you want to get their attention, go to that company's GitHub, find something, could be small, could be whatever, find something, see if you can contribute in that way. And then now it's not even just like, here's a generic open source thing. It's like, oh no, actually, like somebody at that company will have interacted with you in some way by looking at your pull request, or maybe even there's some comments back and forth. Like that's almost like it's like a combo of like open source contributions, but it's also like networking via GitHub effectively, right? It's like, it's something,
It
you
is
know,
like social media now.
Yeah.
And it does show that like demonstrated understanding of Git and how to like, those things do become extremely important on a team. Like if you come in and you're not really understanding how to maintain a good Git workflow that pushes to the appropriate places, doesn't overwrite certain people's work, you understand how rebase or like how that team is working necessarily within Git. Like if you can adapt to their style on open source contribution, then that is just a whole nother layer of understanding that you're showing to the employer that I care about this and I understand it, and that becomes important for us too, right? Like when you have students coming in, you know, only for a couple years and then they leave, and other students have to hop onto the project and understand where things left off, and you know, it's very important to understand those Git fundamentals and just those team aspects of communicating via those issues, or communicating via the appropriate forum, right? Maybe it's not GitHub issues, maybe they're using something else, and if you know how to go find that and contribute, that it just shows so much about that person, I think.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting close to the end here, so I feel like you know, we've talked a lot about AI, all this other stuff, but I do feel like there has been a bit of a shift, whether that's how people are able to just fire off so many more applications than they could before, whether it's employers trying to react to that. So I want to do like a quick like lightning round for everybody here. What's a piece, maybe this is a bad question, we'll figure out on the fly. Is there a piece of common career advice that like you feel like everybody always gets told that is just like you feel like no longer applies at all? Because it doesn't have to be AI, it could just be technology, it could be the industry has changed, where it's like this sort of piece of dogma where you're like, actually, that's just not how, that's a bad idea, don't do that anymore, that doesn't matter because of X, Y, or Z. I'm curious, because there's, you know, speaking about AI, you can just ask AI, how do I apply, or what do I do, what questions should I ask, things like that. But do you feel like there are any sort of common pieces of advice that you're just like, that's over, forget that? Kind of sprung this on y'all.
Yeah. You know, that's a hard one. I would say probably like you just can't be afraid to like contribute where you might feel like you're not on that team or you're not part of, like, we're looking for people who can really contribute to the whole of the problem or the whole of the thing that the company is solving. And, you know, even if you're on X team, it doesn't mean you're just X team for this company. You know, you are a part of the company that is trying to solve a problem or push towards a certain set of solutions. And so it's to not be afraid to kind of blend those or, you know, blur those lines a little bit and like get involved with those other teams. Like, you're not just in your silo, and no longer are you just siloed on individual code projects in a lot of places that, you know, we see. At least I'm sure that's not true for the big Googles or whatnot, but all the time. But to be a part of, just understanding what it means to be a part of a team rather than like as a whole, rather than just your siloed work is so important.
Yeah. Matt or Ian, anything?
There's a decent number of people there's a lot of communities out there for people who are trying to get a job in tech and as a junior programmer or entry-level programmer. And they have come and gone in terms of their prominence. Right now, Torc, T-O-R-C, is one of the biggest ones where they're gathering a whole bunch of people together who are all looking for jobs and they're building a community for them. And I've only heard good advice from them, but they're not the only one. There's lots of other communities doing that. And some of the other communities, one of the things is the more jobs you submit to, the more likelihood you have of getting it. And they're talking about people submitting. They're like, look, you have 8 hours a day to work on this, so you should be submitting to dozens to potentially hundreds of jobs a day. And I do think it's important to not be like, I'm looking for a job, so I'm going to submit to 2 jobs in the morning and then play ARC Raiders for 7.5 hours for the rest of the day. Like, that's not acceptable. Like, yeah, that's why you're not getting a job. But it doesn't mean, therefore, you should submit to 150 jobs that day. It should be, you should be spending hours per job, crafting it, getting better at it. Some of the things are applying to the job. Some of the things are making your resume look better or going to coaching services. Like, just because you have time to do it doesn't mean you should be submitting endless numbers of low quality applications. There's other ways to spend that time.
Yeah. Oh, Ian, you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, I think that's totally correct. And just that it's a multi-front endeavor. So like maybe the morning you're going to do 5 or 6 really well-crafted applications. But then in the afternoon, you're going to work on some open source stuff and try to build some relationships. Maybe at night, you're going to go to a meetup, or you're going to start a meetup, or you're going to go to the college's networking event, whatever, right? Like, it's not just one path. It's like you got to be on all the fronts until you find the one that, you know, gets you in the door somewhere. And yeah, it's kind of it's a lot of work to get the job. So
okay. And Matt, good point about Torc. I should always give Torc a shout out. That's a great example of like, it's like community and networking, right? It's like that's been one of the themes of this. Okay. We are just about at time. I want to thank everybody for being here. Ian, where can folks find you online, or where can they learn more about you?
Just go to ianlandsman.com. That's got all this stuff on it.
Beautiful. Matt, how about you?
MattStauffer.com.
Got to get that .com. I should have asked y'all, should people get a .com for their name?
Yes, they
yes.
should. You should have
get the
a
.com
website for yourself.
I paid $3,000 for my .com. It took me a long time to save up for it, and it took me a long time to eventually get it from the person, and I have not regretted it since. It was not at the beginning of my career. At the beginning of my career, I was MattStauffer.co. I eventually saved up and bought the .com, and I have absolutely no regret about it. But no matter what, even if you can't get the perfect one, Ian's right. Have a personal website that has everything somebody needs to know to get to know about you, to think about you, and preferably have it on a custom domain. If at all possible, firstname.lastname.com. Or every once in a while, meet someone who got firstname.com.
You should do that if you can get it.
Yeah.
All right, great. Joel, how about you?
My own personal work, don't worry about it. i3.uconn.edu.
There you go. I3? Yeah. I3. Okay. Well, Ian and Matt, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
Thanks everyone.